I'd like to welcome you to our Natural Habitat Adventures webinar today, Meet Alaska's Coastal Grizzlies Up Close, presented by Brad Joseph. Brad is a naturalist interpreter specializing in bear biology and ecology of the North Country. He attended the University of Alaska Fairbanks, graduating with a BS in wildlife biology in 1999. And since then has worked as a biological research tech on various projects throughout Alaska. He has guided numerous professional photographers, photography workshops, bear viewers, and film crews on expeditions along the remote coast of Katmai National Park for the last 11 years, as well as in Churchill, Manitoba for the past 6 years. And in addition to being a bear junkie and a wildlife photographer, Brad's hobbies include botany, gardening, bird watching, and volunteering with the Homer, Alaska Volunteer Fire Department as an EMT. Brad's love of wildlife has led him on numerous solo adventures throughout the world, including trips to Borneo, Central America, the Amazon, China, Africa, Sri Lanka, and India. And today, we're here to talk about Alaska's coastal grizzlies. Brad, over to you.
Hey guys, how's it going? So I'm here and going to talk to you guys about this trip that's really dear to my heart. And I think I forgot to give you an updated bio. I've actually been doing guiding on the Alaska Peninsula now for, I think it's about 18 or 19 years now. So right after college. So yeah, this has been a huge part of my life. And those bears out there have treated me really well. So, I'm going to try to put in another good word for them on this webinar. Thanks, everybody, for joining. So I'll just go ahead and get started here. Got a lot of stuff to cover. I'm notorious for going over my allotted time slot. So I'm going to really try this time to keep it under an hour. All right, so here we go. This is just to put a face to the name, or to my voice, sorry. It's here I am. And so I went to school in Fairbanks. I got my degree in wildlife biology in '99, and then I started working for the government and doing a lot of research on small mammals. But then I kind of switched over to bears. And my first bear job, and well, actually, bears is really the reason I moved to Alaska. About 80, well. The vast majority of the brown bears and grizzly bears that live in North America live in Alaska. So I pretty much, there was a lot of reasons for me to move to Alaska, but I kind of, most of it was I just wanted to be around as many bears as I could be. And finally, I got a job with the Alaska Department of Fish and Game at a place called McNeil River. And I learned under two guys, Derek Stoneroff and Larry Allmiller, and they pretty much, both those guys are kind of like the Jane Goodalls of the bear world. I mean, they really learned in the 70s how to be around bears, on foot, unarmed, and how to diffuse stress with body language. And I learned from those guys, and then I worked under them with an internship where I was kind of like a ranger and also collected some research data. And then after that, I started guiding on the Alaska Peninsula further out west from McNeil, and I've been doing it ever since, actually. So that started in 2000. So I've been doing it quite a long time. And that's where I learned how to guide. And I was just going to start guiding as kind of a way to take a break from academia and also government agency work. But it turned in, thanks to Natural Habitat, really, it turned into a career. Now, my destinations have expanded over to Churchill. So I think this was my 13th season in Churchill, so since 2005. And so Churchill in the fall for polar bears, also Churchill in the midwinter for aurora. I just got back doing guiding some aurora trips. And then for about 9 years now, been guiding in China. So in the springtime and the fall, I'm in China and or Borneo, a little of both. So I love the Borneo trip too. It's pretty cool. I've done webinars on China and Borneo also. So you want to learn more about those trips. There's not really a better way to learn about a trip than to hear about it from the guide who guides the trip and see pictures. And so we, Nat Hab webinars are an awesome way to kind of, learn about an area or an animal that you like, but also decide, is this the trip I want to take? Because there's lots of trips out there. I'm not the only guide that guides in Katmai, so I'll be speaking on behalf of two of my closest friends. One of them is Drew Hamilton, and he's been also learned the ways of being around bears from McNeil River, and worked there for a number of years for the Department of Fish and Game, and has also guided in other places in the Alaska Peninsula. He is definitely one of the greatest bear experts that I've ever met. If you ever want to just to get to know him a little better, you can go to the Natural Habitat Facebook page, and it's the featured video. They did a little documentary on him out there guiding these trips, and if you watch that, you're probably going to want to go on the trip. So be careful. It's a pretty powerful film, and you will see how articulate and intelligent and gifted Drew is, and so he's awesome. And then there's one of my best buddies, Justin. I met Justin probably about 15 years ago, and he and I guided together on the Alaska Peninsula way back, and doing bear viewing also. And so he still guides. He's been doing it ever since. Guides all over Alaska. Now, like me, he guides all over the world. He guides China also, and does polar bear trips and aurora trips. And so he is a wealth of knowledge and has got as much experience hanging around bears and teaching people about bears and getting them excited about bears as anybody. So we've got a really good team of 3 guides. It doesn't matter which one of us you'll get, and it's all about the bears, and we're just the liaisons between the bears and the people. And it's a pretty cool job. So, why bears? And I think I just want to show, of all the animals in the world that you might want to go look at, like, why bears? And why did I move to Alaska to view bears, to be around bears, to work with bears? I've been interested, I would say obsessed with bears since I could talk, since I can remember. They've been just the thing that's been most fascinating to me in my life, always. Now, why? And I think as a little boy, when I was 3 or 4 years old, I just was fascinated by their power, and their ability to intimidate people. I mean, they're kind of like monsters, in some way. So I think that humans are drawn to what scares them, what intimidates them. They're fascinated by that. Something, the humans dominate the world. But there's a few critters out there that just won't be, that refuse to be dominated. And the grizzly bear certainly is one of the most intimidating, powerful, and something that elicits as much, I would say, humility as any animal on Earth. So, yeah, bears humble us. They scare us. They fascinate us because of their power. But at the same time, on the opposite end, they're also about the cutest creatures in the world, especially the cubs. We love bears. I mean, think about teddy bears. Bears are probably, I would say, equally as charismatic as any animal on the planet, especially the mothers and the cubs. You get a mother brown bear that is about, potentially I think it's as scary to humans as any animal on the planet. They're like this female here, this giant female, who will defend those cubs with her life. And then you see these little tiny, they like little spider monkey, goofy, naughty cubs, and the mother is so patient, so nurturing, devotes, it depends on the bear, but up to 3 or 4 years of her life, training, teaching these cubs before I kick them out, and then she does it again. So it's an awesome, maternal thing to watch, is mothers and cubs. So it's very cute, very endearing. And then bears also, I think, I kind of probably talked about how bears do scare people. That's not news. But when I'm guiding trips out there, probably the most common expression that my clients will have is laughing. I mean, the bears are hilarious. I mean, the postures and the stuff they do, they're just constantly making people laugh. So it's an animal that not only just gets your attention, gets your heart beating, but at the same time you just can't help but just laugh at them because they're just hilarious. They're naughty, mischievous, incredibly charismatic, you know, and just like some bear just stretching, doing yoga, laying on her back. I mean, when I'm guiding out there, it's so many times in a trip where I just kind of close my eyes, shake my head, and say, they just never cease to amaze me, and the people are cracking up because of whatever the bear does. Well, they're lovable, but you know, they're also fascinating animals. The first of all, they have a sense of smell it depends on, it's somewhere at least, it's 1,000 or 2,000 times more sensitive than ours, their sense of smell. It's 10 times better than a bloodhound, which is 200 times better than our sense of smell. So you're watching an animal that lives in a dimension that we can never understand. Like they can pick up things, sense and something walked by, you know, a week ago. They can smell things miles away. So it's just really cool to watch an animal that's got supernatural senses. They've got the vision just as good as ours, similar to a dog. They're not poor vision. That's definitely a misconception of bears. And their hearing is about the same as a dog. So you got an animal that's set up with some pretty incredible senses, especially compared to ours. They're also very, very intelligent. I would say that, in my opinion, I've got so many stories, I can't tell them now, I don't have time, but of how smart bears are. And I would say that just think about the smartest dog you've ever encountered, like probably a blue heeler or something like that, or super, super smart dog. You know, in my opinion, times that by 10, and that's a bear. They're very, very intelligent. So those are what we're drawing in there, but you know, so I think it's easy for us to be fascinated by bears. And that's great. We're fascinated by them. We want to conserve them. We want to learn about them. And there's a couple other aspects that I think are important to know about why we should love bears. And one of them is they're actually an amazing steward of their own ecosystem. Now this is a gross picture, I know, and you guys are probably like, what in the hell is you showing? But it really tells a story here. Bears are stewards of their environment. They take care of their environment. Bear habitat is much more productive. The ecosystem is more productive when bears are there than when they're not. So what we got here on the picture is a pile of poop. So that shows me two things. It's dispersing seeds. It's basically gardening its own habitat for something that it eats. So those berries are very, very dependent on bears to disperse the seeds, so those species can proliferate. And then with the poop and also the fish scrap, they are spreading nutrients into their environment. They're fertilizing that garden. Not only plant the seeds, but they also fertilize it. And the best example of them fertilizing this would be on those riparian or sort of riverine corridors and coastal corridors where they are bringing marine nutrients. So here would be in the form of salmon, but also when at low tide, clams, stuff we'll talk about later in the webinar. If there's a beached whale, something like that, they're taking in that and then they're walking away and basically pooping somewhere else. And that fertilizes the land. So there was a famous study they did in southeast Alaska. They had two river systems. One, they were very, very similar. They're both salmon areas, and they had salmon coming up the rivers. But one had bears and one didn't. And the one that had bears, their trees are 3 times larger. And if you were to look at the nitrogen in that tree, it's all coming from marine, and the only way for it to get from the river onto the bank and into the forest are bears. And then, of course, you know, those bears are leaving scraps for other animals that support the ecosystem, so allowing the eagles and the foxes and the mink and all the other stuff. So bears are very, very good stewards of their environment. They also symbolize wilderness. So that's kind of a more vague thing. Like, why should we have bears around? Bears are scary. You know, the way I like to describe it is, if you're driving in the prairies and you finally come to the Rocky Mountains, let's say you come down, you're driving up into the Wind River Range. That's a wild mountain range in Wyoming. But you have a certain feeling about it. There's a certain, you know, power to those mountains. But if you're driving up and all of a sudden you see the mountains of Glacier in Montana, or the Canadian Rockies, or Banff and Jasper, you see those coming into the horizon, you know, you got a different feeling. And the main difference is that the Wind Rivers, their grizzlies were eradicated. In Montana, in Alberta, that's grizzly country. So when you go into those mountains, there's something different. It's a whole different ball game. So that's that feeling that it's wilderness. I mean, what is wilderness? It's a feeling you get. It's you're vulnerable, you're humble, you're challenged, and there's nothing really that evokes that feeling that symbolizes wilderness, like walking up and seeing a set of grizzly tracks. Like, whoa, we got to be careful here. So yeah, so I think that I love wilderness. I love that feeling, and it's addictive to be in that presence of those animals. And so that's very, very, very crucial that we preserve that kind of stuff. Now, like World Wildlife Fund, which is a partner with Natural Habitat, they're kind of their model of conservation is you pick charismatic species, really charismatic, such as bears, tigers, elephants, and then people get drawn in and fall in love with those animals much more than they would, say, a certain species of salamander or an insect, and then they decide they want to protect those animals and protect the habitat. And so when you protect grizzlies, everything else, all the way down to those insects and those non-charismatic creatures, are protected also. So it's what we call as an umbrella species. So whenever you support bear conservation, you're supporting the conservation of everything underneath it. So here we are in Alaska. I have to apologize. My little mouse, you might see my mouse, but I don't, so I can't really point it out. But I'll just say you can see Anchorage, and there's Anchorage, and if you go southwest, you'll see something called the Aleutian Range. That's the Alaska Peninsula. That is my favorite part of the state of Alaska. I've been all over Alaska, worked all over. This is the ultimate Alaska. I mean, it's the wildest, the most beautiful, and the best wildlife viewing. And then you'll see the island of Kodiak. So that's where our trips are happening, that we're talking about today. It's kind of a cool, like a satellite level view of Katmai National Park. These mountains, you'll see a big volcano there with it spewing. That's Katmai National Park, and to the top left of that is also, and that's the Kenai Peninsula in Homer. That's one of our gateway cities, and then over to the right is Kodiak Island, and that's where we begin our trips, either in Homer or in Kodiak. Now, after August 22nd, all the trips originate in Homer. Before that, they originate in Kodiak. They're both amazing places, great places for us to start our trips. They're beautiful. Kodiak, they call it the Emerald Island. It's just stunning, and it's off the road system. It's got a wild feel to it, the residents. So as you go along, I mean, these guys are living kind of off the road system in a remote coastal town in Alaska. That's an experience. Homer's on the road system, but what it's got going for it is it's often touted as the most beautiful community in Alaska. I lived in Homer from 1999 all the way up until last year. Then I moved down to the Ozarks because I just kind of missed early spring stuff. A long story, but Homer's stunningly gorgeous. So it's a really cool place, and lots of history, culture aspects of both communities. So lots of cool museums. So great places, and then we do marine cruises in both places where we see great marine wildlife. The whale watching that we've the last 2 years has been outstanding. So with the humpbacks coming in and breaching and stuff like that. So sea otters, puffins, and then just like NatHab style, eating some great food. And so yeah, it's a good way for you guys to start the trip. I'm not present during those days, but at some point, you guys that come on the trip, they will board a float plane and fly out to where you will meet me and the boat, or Drew or Justin. So the kind of the way the trips are is it's 2 nights in either Kodiak or Homer, 4 nights on the boat, and then at the end there's 1 more night in either Kodiak and Homer. So if you ever ridden a float plane before, if you never have, it's definitely worth it. It's a cool thrill. It's very safe, very way to get out into the remote areas of Alaska. If you want to go see Alaska, you can't just get in an RV and drive around and see the real thing. You have to get out off the road system into the wilderness, and that is where the real stuff is. So we fly float plane. There I am, picking up my group. came in from Kodiak, and then there's 4 nights on this boat. Now, this boat is not a luxury yacht like that we not have uses in the Galapagos or something. It is a work boat that's been converted into our expedition vessel, and I love this boat. It's the Natural Habitat Ursus. It's the original Time Bandit, if you guys like The Deadliest Catch. The Hillstrand brothers built this and fished Bering Sea crab with it in the wintertime. So it's like probably like the most challenging thing that people do on the ocean, on Earth, is fishing for crab in the Bering Sea in the wintertime. So my point is it's a really cool boat just to be able to see how this thing was built and engineered. But for us, it's overbuilt for where we do go. But what that means is very, very smooth ride. It can be choppy conditions, and you won't even know you're in a boat. It's just very sturdy, stable, reliable, very safe. I mean, you couldn't sink this thing if you wanted to. So yeah, it's a great boat for us. It's not beautiful, but inside it's got a lot of character, and it takes us where we need to go, and then we can deal with all kinds of weather conditions and do it safely and comfortably. And the inside, it's cozy, but you know, you see that little circle thing on the windshield to the left of Captain John Mitchell, who's one of our captains. That's set up to spin so fast that the freezing spray in the wintertime doesn't stick to the window, so the pilot will be looking out that hole. So, I mean, if that boat could tell stories, my gosh, it's got so much character. We just love that boat. And inside, it's cozy, comfortable, clean. That's one of our cooks, or chefs, sorry, Carrie, who's been working with us for probably 10 years. It's just like a family out there for about half the season. Also, my wife comes out and cooks, and the food is often described as the best food that anybody's ever had on a NatHab trip, which says a lot, but I've heard that many times. It's pretty serious. It's good stuff. So you eat well, you're safe, you're comfortable. Now, here's the big surprise about the boat. Now, in the past, we had 4 bedrooms inside the original house of the boat, but now, and pretty much all 8 clients would share 2 bathrooms. And but now we've added 4 more bunk rooms and 2 more bathrooms. So now this is one of our bunk rooms. This is definitely I'd say an incredible improvement to our programs. Is each bunk room that has 2 people, we can't have 2 people, you'll see 2 bunk rooms right here with a shared bathroom. So you'll only be sharing with one other couple. And then each of the bunk rooms also has a sink. So that's huge for people that are worried about being comfortable. So this is oh man, it made all the difference in the world. This was new from last year. So there we go, bathrooms, more bathrooms. Also, the other kind of thing that people didn't like as much is when we would take our boat, our small boat, from the big boat over to shore where I would show people bears, walk around on foot. We'd have to kind of climb over the rails of a skiff. But now we've got a landing craft. This thing is awesome, super smooth, super fast. And you'll see this hatch up on the front of it. We drive up to about 1 foot of water, lower that down, and you just walk right off into 1 foot of water, and that's it. So much, much easier, much more comfortable. It's just much more, I'd say, NatHab style. So we've done everything we can do to make this trip as good as it can be. That's what we do. And right now it's about perfect. Of course, the bears do what they do. And this is one of the only places in the world where we can safely and very easily go ashore and walk around with bears. So now, is it safe? I've got to spend a little bit of time. Is it safe? Yes, it is safe. Nobody has ever been hurt in Katmai, with the exception of an individual, Timothy Treadwell, and that's a long story. If you're on a trip with me, I can tell you all about it. But there's a reason why he got hurt, and we don't make those same mistakes. There's regulations. We don't approach the bears very close. The bears might approach us if they want to, if they're not afraid. But the main point is that these bears really show their true spirit. They haven't been messed with by people. They haven't been hunted. Katmai has been protected as a national preserve, a national monument, and then later the national park, but since the 20s. So there's been many generations of bears that haven't looked at humans as a big threat. So when they see us ashore, they're not worried that we're going to hurt them. We're also very responsible. Nobody's ever provided them with food, so they're not like Yosemite black bears or Yellowstone grizzlies that are always trying to steal your stuff. They respect us. We obviously respect them. We've got a great mutual relationship. They do not care if we go and hang out. We're just not even an issue to their world. They've got much more important things to worry about and deal with. So if we go ashore, we sit down. That's something I learned at McNeil River, and I think almost all the guides out there now do the same thing, and it makes all the difference in the world. Sitting down is bear body language for submission, non-confrontation. And when we sit, bears are totally mellow. They forget we're even there. They do their thing, and we just watch and enjoy. We don't harass them. And I don't carry a gun. I wasn't allowed to carry guns in Katmai before George Bush changed the law and said you could. So I could if I wanted to, but I learned for many years how to deal with bears without a gun. And it's through body language and for a deterrent. And I've only had to use it about 6 times since 1999 as a hand flare. And it works beautifully. It's an aerial. Well, it doesn't shoot up in the air. It's like a super bright sparkler, and no bear on earth is going to mess with me when I pop that thing off. But you never have to. It's an incredibly cool, mellow. And this is people that clients that go out there. I always hear like that. You know, they go on this bear trip, and then but their neighbors and their friends are like, "Oh, you must be crazy. You need to see a psychiatrist. That's suicide." Well, look, did these guys look afraid? The bears look bothered. No, it's just it's a place where the bears can show their good side. The bears get some really bad reputation because of some of the stuff that happens where bears are not treated with the same level of respect. And we learn a lot about how to be around bears and coexist with bears from hanging out with them. And I love them. They're the easiest thing to deal with on the whole trip. It's just the bears. They're great. Oh, just a second. There is Allie Jacobson. She is one of the NatHab sales expedition salespeople. So you guys might talk to her on the phone, where she is enjoying her bear trip last summer, having a super good time. And there's Susanna Spencer, and then Allie is on the right there, just having a blast out there. So one of the cool things so unique about the coast of Katmai is that the bears have this relationship with the ocean. So you get to see them learn to live by the ocean, from the ocean, and that's great. It's the best place. Bears all over the world are very famous for being opportunistic and learning how to make food out of so many different variable things. There's not a better place to show examples of that and how incredible it is than on an ocean, where you've got intertidal stuff, you've got fish runs. You know, the ocean's changing, and these bears have this special relationship and wisdom when it comes to the marine fringe there. So, yeah, it's great to see bears on the coast. And the coast is what brings them food that allows them to be so plentiful. It's the densest concentrations of bears in the world are here, also in Kodiak, and then there's an island in southeast Alaska. But it's the coastal food that allows the bear densities to be so high and also the bears to get so big. What is a brown bear versus a grizzly? Why do we call them grizzlies? It's confusing, but brown bears and grizzlies are the same thing. But when they say coastal brown bears, or bears that live within 100 miles of the coast, and they're basically just grizzlies, same species, that grow twice as big because they have so much good stuff to eat. Another reason why this location, Katmai Coast, is so incredible place to watch bears do the coolest stuff is that it's got some of the most stunning scenery in the state of Alaska and also the world. I mean, you wouldn't have to have bears here to want to come out here. I mean, the country there is stunning. It's glaciers and volcanoes, unbelievable. I mean, how is a guy supposed to, or a gal supposed to concentrate on the bears when you've got some beautiful scenery to look at? It's very distracting. Well, one thing that helps is that the bears are the most beautiful bears on earth. These specific bears on the coast of Katmai, in my opinion, and the opinion of many others, they are the most beautiful. They're the size of the coastal brown bears. You know, they get huge, just about the same size as the ones over on Kodiak Island. When you look at both Kodiak bears and the Katmai bears, there's really almost no difference in their appearance. The only difference is that the bears on Kodiak were hunted, so they don't have that special relationship with people. They look at people as an enemy, so bear viewing is very difficult. So don't think that this trip we're not going to Kodiak Island to see bears. You go in there as a jump off to where the real bear viewing is, which is about 30 air miles away on coast to Katmai, where the bears trust people. Okay, so back to the beautiful bears. Look at these guys. I mean, I don't even have to describe it. Just look at the pictures. They're huge, and they've just got these, most of them have, especially the females, have this beautiful toe-clat. It's kind of like the toe-clat grizzlies of Denali, but these blonde coats. I mean, you just can't, I can't stand it. They're so gorgeous. Like these beautiful animals on Earth. It's big, healthy. A lot of, yeah, a lot of people, and, you know, a lot of people say, well, you can go bear viewing over there because the bears don't eat people because they're so full of salmon. Well, that's not the case. That's not true. This female here, she's fat, healthy, but this is in June. She hasn't had a salmon since previous October. But she's got plenty of fat reserves, and I think it's almost like the default mood for these bears is just content and in a good mood because they live in a wonderful place with lots of food opportunities. But just gorgeous bears. Now, I'm not the only creature out there that's got a crush on these blonde supermodel female bears. The male bears also have crushes on them, too. So when the females come down in June, now this is another thing that I need to talk about. I'm going to have to pick up the pace and talking slower than when I'm just over-talking as usual. But so much, I love this place and these bears so much. It's hard for me to skip through subjects. But, I mean, it's a lot. The most common question that people give me is, Brad, when should I go on that? When's the best time to go? And the answer is there's not a best time. I have to say it depends on what you want to see. So I'm going to go through the differences of what you want to see. Now in June, the bears are eating in these intertidal sedge meadows and a really rich sedge grass that gives them enough calories to kind of maintain the fat before the salmon come in. Salmon do not run in this area until mid to late July. So why would you want to come see these bears if you're not catching salmon? Well, here's why. First of all, you get to see mating season. These beautiful females that are in here to eat the grass draw in. Mating season for bears is June. The most awesome male bears, I mean, look at these guys, enormous, biggest bears I've ever seen in my life. Now, there's bears this big in Kodiak, but you'll never see them because they're hunted. They don't like people. They hate people. These guys don't care. So we can just sit back in the grass and watch this romance with some of the most just heart-stoppingly awesome specimens of bears. This one right here, I'm going to go back. This one is the biggest bear I've ever seen in my life. His name is Van. He's got to be, you know, in his prime, which is right now probably 1,500 pounds, something like that. And then this is him last year. His prime, he didn't used to have to fight at all because all the bears just got out of his way. But now he's getting up in age. He's got some challengers. So now he's really having to work to be that top dominant position. So you can see that he's taken a beating a couple times. Just an amazing, awesome specimen. When he walks by you, he doesn't care about people. He's not afraid of us. He's not challenged by us. He just ignores us. He's known people since he was a cub. But it's just like, I mean, look at him. I wouldn't say they're beautiful or he's beautiful or cute, but I mean, an awesome animal to see. So mating season is my favorite time to be out there, actually, because the behaviors are so amazing, incredible. The complex body language, the selection of females for the most studly males, and also by the males for the most beautiful females, and then the competition. There's a 50-50 sex ratio of bears, male and female, but a lot of the females have cubs because they keep the cubs for 3 or 4 years. So there's not that many single females available for all these very willing males that have lots of desire. So they have to fight over them. No, they don't fight that often. The bears are too smart. They figure out ways to figure out who's tougher and who deserves the girl through body language and intimidation and all kinds of interesting stuff. I do a whole, I'm lucky if I get it done in an hour presentation on this, on bear reproduction. And but to sit out and watch this stuff and have me explain to you all the stuff that's going on with their subtle body language, some not so subtle, is awesome. I mean, it definitely is a side that humans don't understand. That's one of the only places in the world where you can watch bear mating season like that up close and personal. So that's June. A lot of people love June because the bears look the most beautiful. They've got their big, fluffy winter coats. So the pictures that I showed of the supermodels that look so great, they're always in June. That's when they got the big, furry coats. They start to lose that in July. Also, well, they start to lose it like in late July and August is when they don't look as good. They're always beautiful, but they're most beautiful in June and then like the first part of July. So then for pictures, you know, when I'm guiding photo trips, one of my sort of key things is it's not just the subject that you're taking a picture of. What makes a spectacular photograph is what you put in the background. So you're looking for stunning background scenery to fill in the rest of the image. And in June, you got lots of snow on the mountains, so you know that's beautiful. So you got these bears in this bright, beautiful, verdant green meadows with just spectacular snow-capped peaks and stuff. And there's more snow in June. So anyway, June and early July. It depends on the year. So pretty much, there's, like I said, there's no salmon during this period. But so you get to watch bears when they're not so focused on salmon. When the salmon come in, the bears get obsessed with salmon. You know, I'll talk about fishing later. Fishing's awesome. But when they're not fishing, you get to see all this other stuff that they do. And you get to watch them. It's just mellow. And bears are pretty mellow. They're not having to fight. They just eat the grass. They do mating season, and they play, and they relax. And it's just a really cool side to their life that most people don't even know exists. And for images, for really stunning images, being able to watch them, you know, take baths in creeks and play and spar and stuff is pretty stunning. So that, again, yeah, so sometimes you don't want the salmon to be in there to get to see some of these really intimate behaviors. Now, one of the things that we specialize in are just hanging out with mothers and cubs, and everybody wants to know, like, when's the best time for moms and cubs? Now, it's kind of a long story, but it's when the mating season is in full action, we still see mothers and cubs. But, you know, it's just a little bit tense. The atmosphere is tense. When mating season winds down, you do get some more mothers and cubs, and things get more relaxed. So you just, as I say, as you go through the summer, it's never a better time. It's just different, and you get pluses and minuses to all the periods. But seeing these mothers and cubs, these beautiful supermodel females with their super gorgeous cubs is incredible. Now, early in the year, the spring cubs are the cutest. I mean, they're teeny little guys. They look like little baby spider monkeys, and they're awkward, and they grow quick. So I think the most amazing cub thing to see really are the tiny spring cubs, probably in June. But they're harder to find also because they're just more vulnerable and stuff. So you know, the females are pretty flighty because those cubs are just learning. And but if you want a spectacular viewing or images of mothers and cubs, you know, it's June and early July for the tiny spring cubs. But that's not to say that the older cubs, like the second summer cub, isn't incredible too. I mean, they're so cute. They're more confident. They're less flighty, so they stick around in one spot long enough. And then we get to see, and the bears, like those little spring cubs in the very beginning, the mothers aren't afraid of us. And that's why it's not dangerous to be around them, because they're not looking at us as a threat. A mother grizzly is only dangerous to what she thinks is going to hurt their cubs. These bears know that we're not going to hurt them, so it's totally cool. And just to be able to look into the eyes of a bear cub that trusts you because its mother trusts you, it's just an unbelievable experience. So I really love watching the families of the mothers of the older cubs. And I mean, they're just confident, and they just got so much personality. So these are, yeah, so and you can see. Now, one of the coolest things about some of these areas we go is these, again, I'll perseverate again on the supermodel female bears. They're very residential, and they've grown up together, so they know each other. So a lot of them are sisters or mothers with the cubs that have grown up, so they know each other, or just maybe female bears that see each other every year or the whole life. So there's a special relationship, and even something that you don't see very often in the bear world, a trust. So just as these females with cubs trust me or Drew or Justin when we go out and sit down, they know we're not going to hurt the cubs, so they don't care about us. They just ignore us and do their thing. They also know that the mothers they're familiar with, they're not going to hurt their cubs either. So we often see bear families socializing together. They would never see this with the spring cubs, the first-year cubs, but with the second and the third-year cubs, yeah, you can see some of these awesome interactions with the two mothers. Let the cubs play together, and for what animal behavior, people that love animal behavior, it's awesome to see. And so the other thing that the mothers and cubs do is they play a lot. Playing is a way for bears to learn how to use their body to defend themselves, and it's very important for their development. So play is a very crucial, a regular part of their routine in life. And watching the bears play is excellent. Now, if a bear has only one cub, the mother actually plays with the cub. If she's got two, usually the cubs play together, and the mother just saves her energy and stuff. So there's just, yeah, and I could tell stories about all these bears. I've watched them grow up since cubs, and now they're just, 600, 700, 800-pound female bears with their own cubs, and I've seen a lot of these females raise different cubs over the years. And now they're grown up and having their own cubs, and so, yeah, it's just like a pretty special stuff. It's hard to explain in words. Very intimate moments, pre-salmon season moments, where the bears are just hanging out and socializing, playing. It's great stuff. Sparring. Now the bears continue to spar, especially the young males as they get older. Like these guys are probably 7 or 8 years old. So that's awesome to watch this. They're practice fighting so that they can become good fighters and can be successful and fighting for females and also fighting for fish and dominance. So watching these bears play. Now at low tide, the bears often will go down and find a variety of food at the intertidal flats. So at low tide, it's underwater at high tide, but they go out at low tide and watching them dig clams, which is a really cool behavior. And they sniff the clams that are buried in sand, and you'd never be able to dig one up with your hands, but the bears can because they can smell where they go as they get away, and also they've got awesome claws and they're built for digging. But sitting out and watching these guys at low tide do their thing and all the different ways that they have to get calories, very resourceful while they're waiting for the salmon to come in, is very special. In the rocky areas, they will flip rocks over and go after things, other different food sources, such as like these blemmy fish, or gunnel fish is another name for them. And yeah, I mean, bears can get a lot of calories foraging for this stuff low tide. They go out on the rocky islands and go after bird eggs, and there's just so much different stuff that they do, and they'll swim from island to island. You can see bears fishing in June and July at low tide. A lot of times they catch flounder. This is a flounder. So as July comes around, the perks to July, again, it's mellow bears. The salmon will begin. Every year is different. Every drainage is different. Depends on the water level. Depends on the weather. Depends on just the year. Nobody can predict it, but sometime after July 15th, the salmon will come in. Spotty runs, and we might see some fishing, but you never know. But one of the things that is awesome about July is the flowers. So if you're a photographer that's looking for to make that stunning picture, something like this, I mean that is fireweed in the back, and that comes in starting mid-July and goes through August, and it's just fills some of the meadows with fireweed. And that is just something else. So I mean, yeah, it's the bear and the spring cub nursing is incredible. But look, you've also got fireweed, you've got green mountains, you've got snow-capped peaks. So for photographers, I don't know, you just really can't go wrong. Doesn't matter when you come, you're going to see something awesome. For the more unique images, people that want to get pictures more unique like this, this would be more June and July. Gorgeous, huh? Now, this doesn't happen very often, but I just wanted to throw this in there. It's pretty cool. You never know with an ocean up there. Sometimes whales die and wash ashore, and we did have a beached whale one time. And these are some pictures. We had wolves come in on it. Feed. We were viewing this stuff with a skiff. Just throw the anchor out next to the whale carcass, a fin whale carcass, and watch the action. And there was a lot of action. Some of the biggest, baddest, meanest bears I've ever seen came down, smelled this thing from 30 miles away or something, and came down and were vying for dominance. And if you ever go to my YouTube channel, it's Brad Joseph's. I've got a video called Brutal Fight in a Whale Carcass. I've got some pretty amazing footage. I don't have a lot of pictures of bears fighting because when I usually switch it over to video when they're going to fight, and I usually know when they're going to fight. And but these big bruisers coming down here, and you know, a lot of times the bears would also share together. It just depends on the bears. There's lots of social dynamics. I wrote a blog article about it. Actually, if you just search it, and it's called "There's a Dead Fin Whale at the End of the Rainbow." I know it sounds weird, but if you read it, you'll understand why. I just talked about this whole experience. We spent like a week watching this whale carcass stuff. And then again, in late July, mid-July, late July, the salmon begin at some point to come in, and the bears start fishing for salmon. And then you get those iconic images. Everybody wants to see bears with the salmon. This is the salmon are the reason why the bears are so plentiful and so huge. And they gain most of their weight and grow so fast just in that period between mid to late July and when the salmon are over in October. So they consume a tremendous amount of salmon. And when the salmon first start coming in, I've had some people say, well, I thought the bears are fishing for salmon, but I thought there would be salmon just still in the river. And that usually happens later in August. There's lots and lots of fish. But in the beginning, it's pretty cool because there may be only a few fish. The bears really work hard to get it. And, you know, they just go after them. And, okay, I just wanted to share that one more time. And some pretty awesome, I would say like watching nature's greatest athlete in its biggest competition, or watching these huge bears with speed, agility, experience, good eyesight, instincts, and just raw power chase down these salmon. So yeah, I talked about how incredible June and July were. I don't really have to sell this very much. I mean, everybody knows. It's amazing watching bears fish for salmon. You see this bear shaking and the salmon roes squirting out. So, yeah, it just depends. Some salmon, and now you don't see as much play behavior and mellow relaxing and lounging around, which is so cool to see the bears do, or the intensity of mating season. But of course, the bears, they try fishing for the salmon pretty hard. It's pretty competitive, and you will see sometimes some pretty awesome displays of violence. Not towards us, of course, just because we're not competing with them, and they just ignore us. We sit on the riverbank, and they ignore us, and then they fish. But among them, each other, yeah, they get pretty intense sometimes. So towards the end of the season, we head down south to the southern parts of the bay, so totally different. So there's an interesting thing is that this trip it blows away any other trip in the NatHab catalog for repeat guests. It's very difficult for somebody to go on a NatHab trip and then see the catalog and all these other cool trips. Why would you go to the same place twice? I mean, it's easy. Like, just go another place. They're all cool. But when you come see these bears, there's nothing like it. And then you just want to see them at a different time of year. And you want to see the other stuff. So if you come and there's tons of fishing going on, you want to come back and see those supermodel females with their cubs and the glacier in the background. But we go down to the southern bays where there's lots and lots of salmon in August, and that's usually when my buddy Drew comes down, and there's Drew in the background. That's when he first showed up, and I was guiding my last trip of the season, and he came out to kind of hang out with me for the rest of the trip, and then took over. And we see some pretty amazing stuff. We don't usually see the glaciers as much, but man, I'll tell you, there's some cool spots that we go to. Check out the slow exposure shot I got of the Baird waterfall. Bears fishing in the fast water, some of it. There are lots of little cool secret spots where we go watch these awesome bears catching salmon. And the scenery is very, very different, but equally as amazing. And you see a little bit of fall color in here. The willows are a little yellow. This would be a mid-September trip. Those red is fireweed. The leaves turn red. And big concentrations of bears, gorging on salmon. And this would be August and then in September trips. Now, the mothers and cubs are there. They're not doing the real mellow, playing around and stuff. It's pretty serious. So we definitely see mothers and cubs, but it's a different experience. And they've got their own supermodel females down there with their own cool cubs down in there, casts of characters that we know so well. And also some big dominant males that roam the creeks too, just huge guys. So just different personalities. There's hundreds and hundreds of different bears that we all recognize. Okay, so that's pretty much the bear portion. I'm going to really quickly just go through other wildlife we see. I'm almost done. So we're on the ocean. This is a seal rookery, harbor seals. Again, the pictures of the seals is great, but I mean, when you get mountains like that in the background, it just adds something special. So harbor seals, very used to us coming to see them. They're the most tolerant harbor seals I've ever seen anywhere. Or sea otters. You don't get your great sea otters in Kodiak and Homer, which you will, I'm sure. We've got some cool ones out there too. And wolves. Wolves is a thing. Every year is different. Some years we see wolves on every NatHab trip, 100%. And then some years we don't see them. And there was a period where we saw them all the time. My Yellowstone buddies got mad at me. Your pictures of wolves are better than ours. We're running the wolf trips. And yeah, I know. I'm sorry. Then there was a period where the wolves just kind of disappeared, and we didn't see them for a couple of years. But they've come back. I don't know what they're going to be next year. Depends on how the winter treats them. It's totally unpredictable where they're going to show up, and you can't come out there expecting to see wolves, but you can hope for it. And if you do, it's obviously a cool bonus. Yeah, wolves are amazing. But yeah, I'm not telling you that this is a wolf trip. This is a bear trip. But we often see wolves. There was a wolf den that we know about, and we go watch. And there was a couple years there where there wasn't much activity, and I don't think they moved somewhere else. But last year, I was so excited that they came back. So we just can sit for a long time, and then sometimes these little pups come out and play around near the den. So yeah, this was last year. And curious pup. And we're sitting down, so we're submissive. They see us from a distance. They see that the bears aren't worried about us. We never run. We always stay together in a little group. We don't look very intimidating. So even the wolf pups sometimes come over and check us out just to see what the heck is that thing. Now, usually the wolf viewing would be best in the northern part of the park in June and July. But the last several years, we've been seeing some good wolf action in the southern end of the park in August and September. So check this out. There was a client named Richard Barrett, and he's been on like 3 polar bear trips with me and been to China with me, and he said, Brad, I want to come see the bears with you. And he said, but I really want to see wolves too. I said, there's no guarantee. I don't know. But if you want salmon fishing, you got to, if you want to guarantee lots of salmon action, probably go in August. And then I don't know if you'll see wolves or not, probably not, but you might. We'll do the best we can. Drew guided the trip for him. He did 2 trips back to back. And so, yeah, the wolves and Drew treated him pretty well. One of the most awesome wolf pictures I've ever seen. If you look, and this guy, the website I've got, the Wild and Wonderful, this guy is one of the best. He's not a professional wildlife photographer, but he is honestly like one of the best photographers I've ever experienced in my life. And if you go to that website, if you like pictures of animals, you better be prepared to spend some time. He's been all over the world, and he's got some of the best stuff ever. And this is some of the wolf shots that he got on this last trip to Katmai. So Richard Barrett, and he's a great guy. He donates to WWF, and it's just awesome. So yeah, this is some of the wolf pictures that he got. they went to that wolf den and saw the whole family with one of the adults. So now, not to say he also wanted mothers and cubs. So we did pretty well there too. These are 2 spring cubs in mid-August. So you see they look very different from the ones that I showed you in June. So they've kind of filled out. They're not as flighty. They're still, I mean, super cute little guys, and they get in their winter coats. So this is probably not your best trip if you dine to see a moose. Much better chance sitting in my yard in Homer, where I used to live. The moose come in there all the time. You know, you got to look at how many wolves and bears are around. Like, it's not really a real friendly place for moose, but they're there. They're just real shy. So we're hanging around the most bears we can. That's usually where the moose are going to avoid. But sometimes we do see moose. Now, the moose densities aren't that great because there's so many predators. That, and also there's no moose hunting. There's no hunting at all in this area. So the moose that do survive and get big enough to not be prey to the bears and wolves, and they're also not targeted by hunters because they have a huge, trophy status size, they get enormous. So some of the biggest moose in the world live on the coast of Katmai, but can't expect to see them. Maybe we're lucky. But some foxes, red foxes, a variety of stuff. This guy's got a mouthful of voles. These guys aren't afraid of people either. This guy found a flounder carcass. This is one you definitely don't want to expect to see. This is an old grainy picture that I took years ago of a wolverine, which is one of the most elusive, amazing animals that you'll ever hope to see in your life. Most people never see a wolverine, even if they spend their whole life in wolverine country. I've been lucky enough to see about 8 or 9 of them over the years, so it's a good place to see wolverines. But that being said, in how many years I've been working out there, I've only seen 8 or 9. But they do live out there. They're cool. And people don't go out there as a birding trip. They're pretty focused on the bears, but Drew, Justin, and I, we all know the birds, and we will point out all the birds that we have out there. It's not a spectacular bird destination, but there's some pretty cool, charismatic birds, like oyster catchers, who again aren't afraid of people either. It's almost like Galapagos. It's just all the animals just know that humans are just there to enjoy, and just they'll even feed their chicks right in front of you sometimes. Puffins. Some of the places we go have puffin rookeries. If you don't see them there, you definitely going to see them well in Kodiak as well, good for puffin. And eagles. Everybody loves eagles. I'm pretty picky about eagles. It takes a lot to impress me with eagle photography because I had eagles nesting in my yard in Homer, so I see them a lot. But there's some pretty stunning backdrops to some of the eagle nests that we know about. So yeah, we do spend some time getting people. Everybody wants to come away from Alaska with a gorgeous eagle shot. There's a lot of eagles there. These are doll porpoises riding the bow of our ship. Sea lions, and sometimes in Katmai we see them. Real good sea lion viewing in Kodiak. Okay, so that's so much information. You guys may be confused. Like I wanted to figure out when to go. All right, when's the best time to go? No answer. June. The landscape is beautiful, verdant green meadows. You can have some mating season action. The bears will be digging clams, doing cool stuff in the intertidal. If you see the cubs, they're tiny cubs. They're the cutest they can be. Snowy backdrops. The bears look the best because they have their winter coats, haven't started shedding at all. July. You have more cubs because mating season winds down and things get more mellow. Some mellow. The flowers come out. There's a real variety. So you'll see them in the meadows. You'll see them in the intertidal. You'll also might see them after the 15th catching some fish. So you could see everything. You might even see a little bit of mating behavior left over. The weather in July is generally the best. So yeah, August, fishing, just hardcore fishing. September, hardcore fishing. The weather's not as good as it is in August. It's cooler. You can get some fall colors coming on. Not like Vermont, but I mean you do get some interesting, like that one picture I showed you earlier. The bears start to get their winter coat, so they look better. A September bear looks better than an August bear. And you start getting a low sun angle, which photographers, like when it sun's out. So yeah, that's kind of my little scenario snapshot too. I mean, the only answer is to come 2 or 3 times, and you'll never be disappointed. Every trip's totally different. This is not a tour. This is an expedition. You never know what you're going to get. So we've done a lot of cool documentaries out there. One of them's the Great Bear Stakeout. You can remember that. That's like necessary to watch. I think they still show it on Discovery Channel. BBC also shows it a lot. Great Bear Stakeout. PBS, Bears of the Last Frontier, we filmed out there. And then just a whole bunch of documentaries. So spreading those beautiful bears, just letting us film them, watch them, photograph them, and showing the good side of bears, and encouraging the world to conserve them and their wilderness. If you want to know some more information or look at some more stuff, you can go to my YouTube channel. I've got tons of wildlife videos. I've got stuff from Borneo, Churchill, polar bears. I've got some Aurora time-lapse, a lot of bear footage, a lot of cool bear fights, and Grizzly ate my GoPro footage with Grizzlies, and all sorts of stuff like that. So yeah, that's definitely worth checking out. It's just go to YouTube and just click Brad Josephs, and or search Brad Josephs, and my channel comes up, and a lot of videos there. I also have a blog that I do for Natural Habitat. It's called Bears and Beyond, Tales from a Wandering Naturalist. And it used to be called Alaska Bears and Wolves, but I did so much stuff, you know, about China and Borneo and different places. We've switched it over to just Bears and Beyond. Not just bears, but definitely a lot of bears on there. So I write articles, show pictures, footage about conservation or whatever trips I've been guiding and stuff like that. So yeah. And you can also, I got Instagram for bear pictures, and you can friend me on Facebook, and then I also have a page, Bears and Beyond Facebook page, that you can see all my posts and stuff too. And that is it. And I have 1 hour and 2 minutes, so I think I'm not in too big of a trouble. But there's some information. There's the NatHab website, a phone number. You can talk to Allie or somebody and ask them questions about these awesome bear trips. info@nathab.com. You can sign up for newsletters, emails. And all right, I think that's it. So I can a couple questions.
Yeah, Brad, thank you. This is Lee. You're definitely not in trouble. That was an awesome presentation. Thank you for taking the time today. So let me ask you a couple questions. The first question we have, how long are you out during the day?
That's a great question. It depends on the weather. You're never going to be forced to be out there longer than you want, you know, but we go out as a group and stick together. And I would say on average it's about 4 hours. And we come back to the boat, take a break, have a little nap, some lunch, and then we go back out in the evening for another 4 or 5 hours. And, of course, that depends on weather, light conditions, time of year, tides, everything else. But, yeah, I mean, it's usually 9 hours, but it's split up in the middle. The one thing that you would need to know, and I've never had an issue with it, people come out there, but there are no bathrooms on shore. You know, so you just have to fertilize the bushes or whatever.
That's good to know. Okay. How close can you get to the bears, and what would you say would be the best camera lens to bring?
You know, the camera lens, I think the bears are doing great stuff 100 yards away. Sometimes they come as close, but you'll need a wide angle. You'll never go wrong with the biggest lens you have, but you don't need a 600. I think probably a 100 to 400 is probably your best lens, and you could put a converter on it sometimes if you something that's cool, like wolves in the distance. But I think 1 to 400. I use it. All those pictures were shot with a crop sensor 7D Canon, and some of them were shot with a 300 fixed f4. But lately now I use my 70 to 200, and sometimes I put on a 1 point or a converter. I can't remember if it's a 1.4 or 2.
Okay, great, thank you. So as I look here, it looks like through your course of your presentation you were able to answer the rest of these questions. So I will stop with the question and answer and turn it back to you for closing comments.
Closing comment, this trip is very, very dear to my heart. Also, Drew and Justin's. I think that it's a really great way for us. I mean, we love bears. We want to do our best to conserve the bears. So what we do is we try to set a good example, let the bears be something that people fall in love with, and they do a very good job at that. And we do it safely and with utmost respect for the bears. The bears come first, and so I think that it, is really, over the years, it's been a great thing that we've shown the world that these are some of the most awesome animals on the planet for many, many reasons, and then we do that in the most beautiful place on earth. So yeah, and it's definitely an adventure.
Yeah.
I guess that's about it.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being with us today and for sharing all of your information. And we have someone who was with you with the polar bears and now can't wait to be with you or Drew or Justin and Katmai. So I think that really sums it up. And with that, we will conclude the webinar. Goodbye, everybody. Thanks again.
Bye-bye.